Love doesn't start with fireworks. Not the real kind. Not the kind that lasts. It starts with a glance that holds just a little too long. A question asked with genuine curiosity. A voice that lingers in your mind when they're no longer around. It begins in the smallest details, in that almost imperceptible shift in your breath when they say your name, in the way their presence calms your nervous system without you realizing it. The truth is, love is quieter in its beginning than most people expect. It doesn't demand attention. It draws it slowly and deeply. People fall in love not just because someone is beautiful or kind or smart. They fall in love because, for a moment, the world feels safer beside them. Because something in their energy doesn't just attract. It settles, it soothes, it stirs something forgotten. It's not just about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone whose imperfections feel familiar, whose fears mirror your own, whose presence feels like a return. Love begins when someone sees a part of you that you had hidden from the world and chooses to stay. It's often the small acts that create the initial bond, a shared joke that no one else understands, the way they remember how you take your coffee, how they send a message just to ask if you made it home safe. These tiny moments are like threads, weaving together something stronger than either of you expected. The connection begins to form, not through declarations, but through consistency. Through showing up day after day, even when there's no obligation to do so. Attraction plays its part, yes, but attraction fades if it has nothing deeper to stand on. The heart needs to feel understood, seen, valued, not just admired. When someone listens without planning what they'll say next, when they remember the things you say in passing, when they're gentle with the parts of you that are still healing, that's when love begins to root itself. That's when infatuation becomes something richer. People stay in love because of emotional intimacy, the kind that grows only when two people are brave enough to show each other who they truly are. When you stop pretending, stop performing, stop trying to be lovable, and they love you still. That is where trust is born. And trust is the bedrock of lasting love. Not just trust that they won't hurt you, but trust that they will hold you through it when life does. Love grows in the space between certainty and mystery. You don't need to know everything about a person to love them. You need to be willing to keep discovering. It's not about completing each other. It's about walking beside each other. Two whole people choosing each other over and over again. Love survives not through perfection, but through choice. Daily, deliberate, sometimes difficult choice. No one is easy to love every day. Not just a feeling you ride, but an action you commit to. Real love is found not in the absence of struggle, but in the presence of willingness. Willingness to fight for each other, to grow through the hard moments, to stay even when staying feels inconvenient. The truth is, what keeps someone in love is often invisible to the outside world. It's in the early morning coffees made without being asked. It's in the way you laugh at their terrible jokes because you know it makes them feel good. It's in holding hands during a silent car ride, not needing to speak. It's in forgiveness, in presence, in showing up again when yesterday felt heavy. Emotional safety is everything. When someone feels safe with you, safe to cry, to fail, to speak without being attacked, they will let down their walls. That safety is rare. It's not something you can demand. It's something you earn through empathy, through patience, through showing them that their emotions won't be used against them. That when they're messy, you won't run. That when they're lost, you'll help them find their way back, not just to the path, but to themselves. So much of love is not what we say, it's what we repeat. Anyone can say, I love you. Not everyone can love you on the days you're hardest to love. Anyone can say, I care. Not everyone will prove it through their actions. The people who stay in love are the ones who make the choice every day to value their partner's heart, who learn their partner's love language, who apologize when they're wrong, who celebrate the little wins, who hold space for pain without trying to fix it right away. Love isn't passion that burns bright and fades quickly. That's lust. Real love glows. It simmers. It lasts through storms because it was built with care. It was built slowly. And that slowness matters. When love is rushed, it skips steps. It forgets the foundation. But love that takes its time is love that lasts. You don't fall in love just once. Not really. If you stay with someone long enough, you fall in love over and over again with who they are becoming, with who they are when they're sick or afraid or aging. You fall in love with new sides of them, with the way they support others, with how they light up talking about their dreams, with the way they grow, And the more you love them, the more they feel free to grow. Love doesn't cage, it sets free. It says, I see you, and I'm not afraid of what you're becoming. And that is the deepest truth. People stay in love when love allows them to be fully themselves, when love doesn't require performance or perfection, when love celebrates evolution. The moment someone feels they can be everything they are and still be loved, that's when they truly begin to trust. And trust feeds love like water feeds roots. Even silence in a deep love feels full. You don't need to fill every moment with noise. You can sit quietly together doing your own things, yet feel utterly connected. That kind of comfort only comes from time, from honesty, from weathering things together. And once you've experienced that kind of love, you know how rare it is. In the end, it's not about finding someone who never lets you down. It's about finding someone who will never let go, who will sit beside you in your darkest hour, who won't leave when you're at your most unlovable, who will remind you of who you are when you forget, who will fight for you even when you've given up on yourself. Love that lasts as a quiet, steady presence, a hand on your back when you're nervous, a voice that says, we'll figure it out when life gets hard. It is not loud or flashy. It does not beg for attention. It simply remains. And in that remaining, love deepens, it anchors, it heals. It's one thing to fall in love. It's another thing entirely to stay in love when life gets real. In the beginning, everything feels effortless. Conversations flow. Time bends. There's magic in the way someone new sees you, in the way they light up when you enter a room. But eventually, the newness fades. The spark becomes familiar. That's when love is tested, not in grand gestures, but in how you handle each other's reality. The hard mornings, the stress, the things you didn't see coming. Staying in love isn't about chasing constant happiness. It's about building something solid underneath it. Something that can hold you both when happiness takes a back seat. Because it will. There will be days of doubt, weeks of tension, moments when you wonder if you've grown apart. But those moments are not the end of love. They're the invitation to grow it deeper, to ask better questions, to reach across the space between you instead of turning away. What keeps someone in love is not perfection. It's presence. It's knowing you'll be met, not just when things are easy, but when they're messy. It's the courage to stay emotionally open even when you feel like shutting down. Love survives in the space where honesty and empathy meet, where truth is told without cruelty, where needs are expressed without shame, where you can say I'm scared or I feel distant or I need more from you and be met with curiosity instead of defense. Consistency is often overlooked, but it is everything. It's not about being romantic once in a while. It's about showing up day after day with attention, with care, with the intention to understand. When someone remembers the little things, how you need a few minutes alone after work, how you hate loud chewing, how you sleep better when they're close, it means something. Those are the invisible threads that keep love intact. Not the anniversaries, not the social media posts, but the silent loyalty of everyday presence. People stay in love when they feel emotionally nourished, and that nourishment doesn't come from constant praise. It comes from being deeply known. From being asked how your day was and being really listened to, from being held when you don't have the words, from being loved not in spite of your flaws, but with full awareness of them. It's easy to love someone's strengths. Staying in love means loving them through their fears, their failures, their wounds. Love deepens through repair. Every couple fights. Every couple hurts each other. What matters is how you come back from that. Do you apologize sincerely? Do you make amends? Not just with words, but with changed behavior? Do you sit in the discomfort and figure out what went wrong? Or do you brush it aside and let distance build like bricks between you? What keeps someone in love is the willingness to work through conflict, not to avoid it, but to navigate it with care. Emotional safety makes that repair possible. Without it, love turns into a performance. You start hiding how you feel. You walk on eggshells. You protect your truth instead of sharing it. And eventually that disconnect becomes unbearable. But when someone makes you feel safe to be exactly who you are, even when you're angry, insecure, confused, that's when intimacy grows. That's when love becomes a sanctuary instead of a strain. There's a quiet kind of romance in shared rituals, the morning coffee routine, the evening check-in, the way you always touch feet under the covers before falling asleep. These small repeated acts create stability. They give the relationship rhythm. They say, I see you, I'm here. We have something solid. And that stability is what allows love to be expansive, to stretch, to deepen, to make space for change. because people change. You're not the same person you were a year ago, neither is your partner. And that's not a threat to love. It's part of it. It's part of it. Staying in love means being willing to fall for who they're becoming, to support their evolution, to challenge them kindly when they're stuck, to grow alongside them, not just beside them. Relationships that last are those where both people are committed to personal growth and where that growth is celebrated, not feared. Love needs room to breathe. It needs individuality as much as togetherness. Closeness is not about being fused. It's about being deeply connected while still being two whole people. It's saying, I love you, and I also love who I am when I'm alone. It's giving your partner space to chase their passions, to reconnect with their soul, to return to the relationship not out of obligation, but out of choice. Boundaries are essential. They're not walls. They're the architecture of healthy love. They define what's okay and what's not. They protect emotional energy. They prevent resentment. And when both people honor each other's boundaries, not just tolerate them, but respect them, trust flourishes. You stop fearing abandonment. You stop trying to control. You start relating from a place of wholeness, not scarcity. Physical intimacy matters, but it's not the only form of connection. Emotional intimacy is the real glue, being able to laugh together, cry together, sit in silence and feel heard. Physical touch without emotional presence eventually feels empty. But when there's emotional safety, physical touch becomes sacred. A hug becomes a homecoming. A kiss becomes a promise. A shared glance becomes a universe. People stay in love when they feel chosen, not just once at the beginning, but repeatedly. Chosen on the bad days. Chosen when someone else might be easier. Chosen when the world is noisy and the distractions are many. Love is not just something you feel. It's something you do. You choose to reach for their hand. You choose to stay curious. You choose to fight fairly. You choose to forgive. You choose to forgive. Gratitude plays a role too. It's easy to take someone for granted when they're always there. But when you pause to notice the things they do, the effort, the love behind the chores, the patience when you're difficult, it changes things. Saying a thank you shouldn't be reserved for grand acts. It should be part of your daily language. Appreciation fuels love. It makes people feel seen. It makes them want to keep giving. There is no perfect relationship. There is only a willingness to keep trying, to keep learning, to keep showing up with an open heart, even after A's been hurt. Love isn't about never letting each other down. It's about how you rise after the fall, how you make the effort to understand, to grow, to repair, and how you remember in the middle of all the chaos why you chose each other in the first place. In the quiet moments when the world is shut out and it's just the two of you, that's where the truth lives. In how you look at each other, in how you comfort each other, in how you make space for both the light and the shadow. That is what keeps someone in love, the quiet, unwavering, everyday devotion that says, I know you, I choose you, I'm still here. Somewhere along the journey, love gets tested, not just in moments of pain, but in the slow grind of routine, in the silence that creeps in when you're both too tired to talk, in the way life slowly replaces excitement with responsibility. This is the part people don't often prepare for. The part where love isn't loud anymore, where the butterflies fade and are replaced with deeper, quieter emotions. This is where many people confuse comfort for boredom. They forget that the deepest love doesn't always feel like a fire. Sometimes it feels like a warm light that never goes out, even when the wind blows hard. What keeps someone in love isn't just passion. It's not constant excitement. It's not drama or chaos or intensity. It's the choice to keep showing up, even when everything inside you wants to retreat. Even when it's easier to shut down than speak up. Even when you feel like strangers for a while. Because love doesn't die in the big arguments. It dies in the tiny moments where we stop trying, where we stop being curious, where we stop seeing the person in front of us because we think we already know them. But no one stays the same. We are always becoming. And if you don't learn to fall in love with who your partner is becoming, love will start to fade. Not because it wasn't real, but because it wasn't nurtured. It wasn't nurtured. Just like a garden left unattended, love needs attention. Not constant, obsessive attention, but gentle, daily awareness. A check-in, a look across the room, a whispered I'm proud of you, a soft reminder that says, I still see you, there will be seasons of distance. It's inevitable. Work stress, family pressure, health problems, grief, exhaustion. These things build walls between even the closest lovers. And in those moments, what keeps someone in love is the choice to bridge that distance, not by demanding connection, but by creating space for it. By saying, I'm here when you're ready. By touching their back as you pass them in the kitchen. By listening to the things they don't say out loud. Loyalty is not just about fidelity, it's about emotional loyalty. It's about standing beside your partner, even when you're both unsure of the road ahead. It's about defending their heart, even from your own ego. It's about not using their vulnerabilities as weapons in an argument. It's about remembering that your words can either break them down or build them up, and choosing every single time to build. There will be temptation in every form. Not just the temptation to be with someone else, but the temptation to numb, to avoid, to escape. Sometimes it will feel easier to scroll endlessly than to ask how they're really feeling. Sometimes it will feel safer to keep things light than to risk saying something vulnerable. But real love is found in the moments where you do the harder thing, where you lean in instead of out, where you face the discomfort because the connection matters more than your pride. Forgiveness keeps love alive, not blind forgiveness, not the kind that allows harm to go unaddressed. But real forgiveness, the kind that says, you hurt me, but I still believe in who we are. The kind that doesn't erase the past, but chooses to move forward anyway. The kind that acknowledges the pain, but refuses to let it become the whole story. Without forgiveness, resentment builds like rust, slowly corroding everything beautiful. People stay in love when they feel free. That may sound contradictory, but it's the deepest truth. Love is not a cage, it is a choice. Every day, in 100 different ways, people decide whether or not to stay close, and when love is built on control, obligation, guilt, or fear, it becomes suffocating. But when love says, you are free to be who you are, and I love you in that freedom, it becomes expansive. It becomes a place of safety, not restriction. A place of growth, not confinement. Sometimes love feels fragile. Other times it feels unshakable. Both are normal. There will be days when you wonder if you're still in sync. There will be moments of silence so heavy they feel like a wall. But often, right beyond that silence, there is something sacred, something waiting to be heard, to be healed, to be healed. If you're brave enough to stay with each other in those moments, to reach out instead of retreat, you'll find your way back. There's a kind of maturity that comes with lasting love. The maturity to understand that your partner will disappoint you and you will disappoint them. And that doesn't mean the love is broken. It just means you're human. It means you have to repair, to relearn, to recommit. Over and over again. Because real love isn't just about finding the right person, it's about becoming the right person for yourself and for them. You learn to hold space for each other's sadness, to not try and fix every tear, to just sit there hand in hand, heart to heart, saying, you're not alone. You learn that sometimes presence is more powerful than advice, that silence can be a form of love, that showing up, just showing up, is sometimes the bravest thing you can do. Love is in the sacrifices, the ones you make quietly, without expecting recognition, the rides you give. The nights you stay up, the arguments you choose not to escalate, the meals cooked with tired hands, the comfort offered even when you're the one who needs it most. These are the unseen labors of love, the things that don't get posted or praised, but hold everything together. Time changes people. Bodies change, desires shift, priorities evolve, and love has to stretch to hold all of that. It has to be flexible, it has to be curious, it has to ask, who are you now? Again and again. Because the moment you stop learning each other, you start losing each other. The moment you think you already know everything, you close the door to the mystery, and love needs mystery to stay alive. The truth is, you don't fall in love and stay there. You fall, then rise, then fall again. It's a dance, a rhythm, a process. There is no happily ever after without over and over again, without the willingness to rebuild, to rediscover, to revisit what matters most. And what matters most is not that you never drift, it's that you always find your way back. Love is not perfect, but it is sacred. It is the most human thing we do, to risk being seen, to choose another soul, to say, I'm not going anywhere. That promise, made quietly, lived daily, is what keeps someone in love. Not the fantasy, not the perfection, but the promise. And in the end, when you look back on your life, you won't remember every detail. You'll remember the feeling of being loved deeply, fiercely, quietly. You'll remember how they reached for your hand when you were trembling, how they laughed at your dumb jokes. How they stood by you when no one else did, how they made even ordinary days feel like home. That's what keeps someone in love. Not magic, not fate, but two people choosing every day to love each other better than they did yesterday, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And that kind of love changes everything.